Back at it again. Haiti Biz News Show, Monday to Friday, bringing you news that's going to keep you engaged, informed, interacting in the most optimal way for your business, investment, entrepreneurial activity. Today is the 23rd of April. Let's talk about it. The case for reparations. Man, it's the elephant in the room. It's the elephant in the room. Let's take an episode to kind of explore it, right? And see just how legitimate perhaps this idea is. As you may know, very early in our history, just a decade or two after we successfully fought and gained our independence, the only country in the history of the world to be successfully founded from a slave revolt in the history of the world, and especially a black one, right? But it was short-lived. It was a short-lived victory because very quickly after, the French army, the French Armada came and parked their boats right outside of our port and said, you know what, we're back, right? And if you don't pay us for the land that you took from us, we're going to invade. We're going to invade. And we're going to keep trying to invade, right? And so at the time, the president at the time made a decision and said, you know what, we'll go ahead for the peace of mind, for the ability to be able to lead a nation and not having to continue to look over one's shoulder. They agreed to pay. And that payment took 122 years and amounted to $21 billion. And it really has not been looked favorably, right? History has shown that the reasons of many of Haiti's political instability and inability of governments to hold power, especially early on, was because of being unable to actually do the things that a nation should be doing, investing in its people, investing in infrastructure, improving business climate, connecting with other countries for development and pacts. They couldn't do it because they were totally engrossed in repaying of debt. And on top of that, you saw the invasion back in 1915 by the U.S. government was in a big part of because of debts accrued, not only the debt that we were still paying from France, but other debts that were compiled, borrowed, Sam to pay Piper, as it were, and the government, we weren't paying them, and ultimately one of the reasons why the U.S. government came in was not only was it just generally they were in an imperial part of their history, but they wanted to collect on what was owed to them in particular. And so when you look back at the history and where Haiti is now, with a big lack of infrastructure, electricity issues, a lot of other major problems. It's really, and as you know, capitalism is something that, money builds on money, right? Wealth builds on wealth. Big projects build on big projects. And so when you see that for a big part of our history, for multiple generations, I think 6-7 generations within that 20-ish year span, when you see that we're deprived that long of time to grow, right? One can potentially make the case that, in Haiti's case, because one of the big reasons why France doesn't necessarily want to provide reparations is, when does it end? Right? You provide reparations here, and the next thing you know, they have to provide reparations in other countries they've ever colonized, from Cameroon to French Guiana to, all across the globe. Montreal can potentially say, France, I need some money too. I can't speak to those other places of the world, but I can't speak to Haiti, and I can't speak that it was pretty straight up. Like, they parked their military boats and ships outside of our port and said, "Pay us, pay us." Right? So it's pretty clear, right? What happened? We have a document that we can reference that said this is what we signed, right? And, to be recognized and how much we owe, right? So So, and of course, the next question is, well, reparations. What are you talking about? It's never happened, but it has. It has. I can give you a few examples. Native Americans, right? There's been several instances throughout history where Native Americans not only have just received land and autonomy, but also received multi-million-dollar payouts. Different tribes, at different times in America's history, multi-million-dollar payouts ranging from in the lower few million to 50, 60, 70 million dollars. The U.S. government has paid out. The U.S. government has also paid out to Japanese Americans to the tune of $1 billion for their internment, right? There's instances of the Jewish community, for example. One can argue that them being supported by the international community to regain their homeland of Israel was in a part a sort of reparation for them for what happened in World War II. That's arguable, right? But for sure, when Austria provided around 30 to 40 million dollars to Holocaust survivors, when Germany provided almost $1 billion to Holocaust survivors, right? That is reparation, right? That is a payment for an injustice that was done, and to make things right from a just and equitable standpoint, even though the lives that were lost and the time lost can never truly ever be recovered, but that gesture is incredibly crucial for the future generations of those people affected. And very recently, Australia and the Aboriginals that were there recently won a $20-30 million payout from the Australian government because of the land that was taken. So there is precedent, right? And we can go back even further in history, where it was much more of a practice of when enslaved people became free, that they were provided opportunities, monies or support from where they were, right? So we can go back in time even further, but just to keep it in recent modern history, there's many examples of where reparations happened, right? And then lead to a downward sloping spiral, right? I believe it needs to happen. It needs to be something that needs to be implemented because it's the right thing to do. It is the right, because when you come to Haiti and you see, as much as I push for entrepreneurship and investment, it's like you're on the bottom floor of you're about to climb up a pyramid. You're looking up and you're seeing a 70-story pyramid, and you see the amount of work that needs to be done to get this country where it needs to be. It's daunting, right? Though I focus on providing, just looking at one step at a time. But certainly $21 billion, that's not a step, right? That's a freaking foundation that one can certainly use to catapult up the development ladder and lose that title of the poorest country in the hemisphere, right? Now, what happens when the money happens? Let's say we wake up one day in a generally much more just and equitable world, and France actually says, you know what, we were wrong. You know what? Yeah, we messed up. Here's the check. Boom, Haiti, $21 billion. Here you go. Don't give it to the Haitian government. I tell you that right now. That's step number one. You don't give it to a single, under no circumstances do you give it to a single Haitian politician. That doesn't happen. What should happen is that we set up an independent sovereign fund, okay? An independent sovereign fund that is tasked with doing very specific things with that $21 billion. What? First, support public saving supplemented partnerships. So public-private partnerships, and that fund is there to add leverage and support to when those sort of partnerships happen. Right? Because right now, the government can only provide so much. A fund could step in, and in addition to what the Haitian government is providing, in addition to what that private company and capital is providing, you would, in addition, get that sovereign fund to inject and make up that gap and ultimately spread that risk across, right? So that's one thing. The next would be seed funding for entrepreneurial ventures, right? There lots of entrepreneurially minded Haitians here and living abroad who would love to come and set up, incredibly innovative entities here. And we saw as precedent for this, Israel, for example, in their push to modernize and improve their economy, did things where they offered any Israeli person coming back, every Jewish person coming back, they provided them assistance in funding of businesses and ventures, and big and small, right? From the lowest entrepreneur with just trying to open up a pizza shop to multinationals who were trying to come in and do things. They were provided support, right? So support of that nature absolutely is needed, right? Support of SMEs, right? Not just the ones trying to start up, but there's a lot of small to medium enterprises already in the country that would love to expand, would love to grow what they're trying to do if they only had a means of support, financial support, a low interest loan, a bond, a stipend, something to kind of surcharge them to buy the capital to grow, and especially if it's within specific industries, from agriculture, from industry, from potentially even education. Textiles is a big one, right? So these opportunities that can employ, really the goal is to employ, as institutions that can employ lots of Haitians, right? As these entities and industries that can just provide jobs in mass and really put a dent in the very large unemployment rate in the country, right? Certainly helping the government modernize their contact points, right? The fact that to pay taxes in Haiti, I have to physically go to a tax office and deal with that, the whole process of people on the side whispering in your ear, hey, I can get you out of here quick, just give me a few bucks. That shouldn't exist in 2019, right? We should have computers, we should have an online portal, we should have databases, we should have ways to avoid having to deal with the corruptors and the racketeers who exist like ants around honey around the DGE. That needs to be a thing that needs to go, that would go, right? Affordable housing initiatives, right? Where the Haitian government wouldn't be the ones building affordable housing, but partner with real estate developers, right? Haitian real estate developers, and provide subsidies to these developers to help make the cost of building these homes and ultimately then pricing them to the market to be actually at a price point that is affordable for Haitians, right? You have a wealth of, I can tell you, he doesn't lack apartment building. I'll tell you that right now. Drive around, you'll see many really nice apartments, but they're priced not for Haitians, they're priced for people returning, expats, retirees. It's not priced for Haitians that actually live in the country to get homes, and certainly providing subsidies for that by the sovereign fund would be a move in the right direction, right? Dollar matching national health savings accounts or 401ks, right? Again, I'm not, maybe America or maybe, Haiti. I am not a fan of big government. I want to make that clear, right? But if we can structure programs like a national 401k, which puts money that people are saving and then invests a portion of it, right? Or health savings accounts that do the same thing, that while people are putting money into their health savings account for a rainy medical concern or issue, that money is then invested on and it grows and the dividend, the growth is returned into people's accounts. Those are certainly things I can support, right? And a sovereign fund could certainly provide that initial boost in capital and security to provide such a program, right? But again, and there's so many things that can potentially be done with I didn't even mention the electricity grid, right? The electricity grid needs major upgrades, not only just the upgrades, but then putting a system of collection, right? Perhaps removing EDIs from the equation and putting up 2 or 3 private companies that manage not only the actual production of electricity, which is really done by the private market anyways right now, but the actual, the distribution needs to be done privately, and ultimately the collection will be done privately as well, right? And the sovereign fund would be a big catalyst to providing not only the plants, because there's a big gap in megawatts that what's needed in Haiti versus what's currently available. Build the plants to make up the gap. A big portion hopefully will be renewable energy, right? And ultimately, we see an improvement in an electrical grid infrastructure. But more importantly, all these deals I mentioned are structured in a way where, yes, the sovereign fund is providing money, but it also has a way to return that money, right? Even for the concept of the real estate affordable housing, we would see the return money to the sovereign fund by the property tax that would be paid on these specific initiatives that are provided, right? Electricity grid, again, with the improvement distribution of electricity, and then the improvements of how to collect, right? You can be able to pay over the phone, you can pay online, we send bills to your house, to your home. We just inundate you with ways to pay. Payment rates will go up, because right now the only way to pay DDI should actually go to the actual local area, which may not even be an area. It might be a few kilometers away from where you reside. No one has time for that, right? No one wants to interface that way. So in any case, there's everything would be structured. Everything that is done by the World Sovereign Fund will be structured in a way to help assure money returns back to the sovereign fund, right? So money can continue to grow, and new projects can continue to be provided. And ultimately, again, because it's not run by any politician, it won't be part of a new second tier of Petrocaribe, right? But anyways, I think that's where I'm going to end it, because it feels like I'm kind of thinking of, you ever been the person where, oh man, if I won the lottery, man, you know what I would do? I would buy this and that. It's kind of feel like this is what this exercise was, because it's such a crazy, far shot, low percentage thing that could ever happen. But nonetheless, we should have a plan in place. We should be thinking about this stuff, because Haiti is due reparations for the specific instance of what France did to it. And it's a matter of time before what's right is set in place and things are returned. And so these are a couple ideas that, if it happens in my lifetime, certainly I hope we see. Certainly we hope it gets enacted, right? And so what do you guys think? Reparations is going to happen? Is it a pipe dream? Huh? Leave a comment. Like these sort of discussions? Give it a like. Subscribe, notify, hit that notification button, and then of course share this with somebody, because the more folks who can appreciate this content, ultimately, hopefully, the quicker Haiti will get to a point where, who knows, maybe it may not even need reparations anymore, right? We'll be that far along, right? It'll just be a drop in the bucket. I don't know. Might be another crazy pipe dream. Until we're back at it again, we'll be back at it again.